guys, I'm Malin and I'm here with Simon, and today we're going to be talking about different training methods, supplements, equipment, calisthenics in general, and we will get your idea of what you think is overrated and underrated. Ready?
Perfect, let's go.
First one, planche in calisthenics. Overrated or underrated?
I want to say underrated, but I think it's fairly rated. I think everyone rates the planche very highly. It looks awesome. It's an elite display of strength, has good transferability to other pushing skills like the handstand push-up, the weighted dip. It's very versatile. And as I said, it just looks awesome. It's a cool skill. So planche, fairly rated, highly rated, awesome skill.
Yeah.
The one thing I have to add to the planche discussion, it's hard and it's frustrating, and it's a long road for many people.
Yes.
So
it can take years.
Yeah, it can take years, and progress can feel so slow, you know, 1 year to increase your tuck planche hold by a few seconds. So yeah, unfortunately it takes a lot of work, but it's worth it. It's an awesome skill.
Next one, pre-workout energy drinks. Over or underrated?
I love coffee, so I think it's underrated.
Yeah.
To talk a little bit more about the science behind it, caffeine is beneficial. You will get a performance benefit from caffeine, but it is small. So I don't expect, you know, you're not going to double the number of pull-ups you can do. But, you know, for a competition, or if you want to have a really hard training session, I think it can be beneficial. And my opinion is very biased because I love drinking coffee no matter what. So coffee before training is a bonus, makes training feel good. I think it's awesome. Yeah,
like I can agree, but I would also say for me, it will be a little bit overrated because, I mean, I like to have an energy drink before training, but for me, I don't really feel that much of a difference in my performance. So that's why I need to say it's overrated.
I agree. You won't feel a drastic difference, but maybe a couple of percent. And the other problem is you don't want to become reliant on energy drinks.
Next one, chalk for good grip. Over or underrated?
Underrated. Chalk is awesome. It will improve your grip. You'll be able to lift more. Over time, that should lead to better strength gains, better muscle growth. I think chalk is awesome. The last thing you want is trying to train your back. And let's say you're doing deadlifts or pull-ups, and if your grip is limiting you, the bar's too slippery, you can't, you know, lift as much weight, you can't fatigue the muscles as much. Exactly, yeah. I think this is a good chance to talk about lifting straps as well. It's not really, it's adjacent, but not really the same question. But when it comes to deadlifts, you know, you hear some people make fun of lifting straps, and they're like, oh, you don't need lifting straps, you're weak.
If you can't do the lift without.
Then don't do it. But the way I think of it is, if you're training deadlifts to improve your grip, yes, don't use lifting straps. But if you're training deadlifts to train your back, lifting straps are great. If your grip limits you and it stops you from training your back effectively, use lifting straps. I've never heard somebody who's like, oh, I do deadlifts for my grip.
No.
So I think lifting straps can be awesome. People make fun of gloves, but if it lets you train harder, go for it. Yeah. If you don't want to be made fun of, wear chalk.
Chalk is something I would never train without. Like ever. Lifting straps I've never tried. Gloves I don't like because I like to have contact with the bar, you know, especially for when I do freestyle and stuff. Like I could never wear gloves. But creatine.
Creatine? I think it's underrated. Similar to caffeine, you will get a benefit from creatine. You'll get increased strength, endurance, muscle growth, but I don't think people should expect to see a huge effect from it. That being said, it's safe, it's effective, it's well researched, it's beneficial. I think there are plenty of reasons to use creatine and not many reasons to not use creatine.
Yeah, I feel like there is no reason not to use it if you're training, basically.
Yeah. If it makes you feel unwell, you know, maybe you can take some smaller doses, spread it out, try some things. But creatine is awesome. I'd say underrated.
Mobility routines.
Mobility routines.
Yes.
I think mobility routines are often overrated. I think it's often people trying to avoid doing the hard stuff.
In every situation? Or?
Not in every situation. No. Let's go into a deep dive on this. I think often on social media, you see people promoting mobility routines. Everyone needs to do mobility routines. Everyone needs to stretch. It's going to prevent injury. Stretching doesn't have much of an effect on injury. It might have a small effect for certain muscle strains, but it's not going to reduce your risk of injury. When it's been studied, injury rates are the same. Another thing is, you will get mobility benefits from resistance training through a full range of motion. So you don't need to do mobility routines. You can just train. Finally, most people in their daily life for their goals, unless they have specific mobility goals, they don't need more mobility. If you live a normal life, you walk to work, you know, you you play with your kids every now and then, you know, you might do some social sports. You don't need to be able to do the splits. You know, you just need to have some cardiovascular fitness, a little bit of strength. I don't think there's much benefit from adding mobility routines into most people's lives. I think it distracts from the more important things like resistance training, you know, cardiovascular training. That being said, if you have mobility goals, it's very important. You're not going to accidentally be able to do the splits.
Yeah.
Or accidentally be able to do...
Or a perfectly straight handstand.
Exactly, yeah. If your handstand looks like a banana, mobility training is extremely important. Underrated. Being able to flex your shoulders usually takes plenty of specific work to address that. So if your goal is general health, I don't see any reason to do it. If you enjoy it, great. If you have specific mobility goals, underrated. You need to be training mobility.
Perfectly explained. Next one. Social media challenges, like doing 100 push-ups every day, for example.
I think they're generally overrated. I don't think they're that helpful. That being said, if you admire someone on social media, there's someone that you really look up to and they do a challenge and it gets you to start exercising, living a more healthy lifestyle, awesome. They're great. But I don't think doing 100 push-ups per day is that beneficial for most people. There are probably better uses of people's time than doing 100 push-ups per day.
Yeah. And I also feel like it can lead to certain injuries like overtraining, especially if you're not used to it. You can do only 10 push-ups now and you're gonna push it to 100 because you see some influencer, then...
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I think if you're sedentary, you haven't trained at all, these challenges generally are pretty extreme. You don't usually see things like, you know, do 5 push-ups a day or build to 100 push-ups per day. They're usually like 100 push-ups per day, 1,000 squats per day, whatever it is. And if you aren't used to doing push-ups and you go from doing nothing to 100 push-ups per day, that is a great way to get injured.
Yeah. Great way. Parallettes.
Parallettes.
Yeah. Overrated or underrated?
Underrated. Parallettes are great.
I agree.
Sometimes they're just more enjoyable to train on. Like certain exercises feel better with them. A lot of people prefer training planche on parallettes than on the floor. Yeah. It's often more comfortable on your wrists too. If I try and do a planche and I lean forward, you know, I might jam my wrist up. If you can see right now, I got a bit of a ganglion here.
Yeah.
So I can't, you know, flex my wrist too much. So,
right now, you need parallettes.
Yeah, training on parallettes is great. Keeps my wrists in a neutral position, no stress through them. I can train pain-free while I let this resolve. So
yeah, you can usually apply more strength as well than only from your fingers on the ground. Let's say for the handstand or planche or whatever. If you grab the parallettes. Yeah,
parallettes are great. And I'll give you two final things I think are useful for this. Yeah. If you're training the planche and parallettes, firstly, if you're training the planche and it hurts your wrists, use parallettes. If it still hurts your wrists, use angled parallettes. And you can easily do that by just elevating one side. So you put a weight plate under one side, like you do to lift your heels. That way, when you lean forward, your wrist stays in a neutral position instead of jamming up. Another question I get a lot about parallettes is, should I train planche on parallettes or on the floor? Should I train handstands on parallettes or on the floor? What I generally say is, you will get great transferability between the two. So if you train on one and you get a full planche, you can probably do it, you know, very quickly on the other one. But you will get the most benefit with the thing that you practice. So if you want to get good on the floor, train on the floor. If you want to get good on parallettes, train on parallettes. If you want to get good on both, do a little bit of work on both.
Absolutely. Next one, grease the groove.
Greasing the groove?
Yeah. Do you want to first explain what it is?
Yeah, I'll first say it's underrated.
Okay.
And then I'll explain what. So greasing the groove is a training method where rather than taking a strict kind of sets and reps approach where you say 3 sets of pull-ups to failure or 3 sets of 10 dips, you know, close to failure, where you train more frequently and you train further from failure. And you get a lot of neurological benefits from that. So a good example of this is, let's say I can do 2 pull-ups and I want to get to 10 pull-ups. A great thing I can do if I'm new to training, I can set a pull-up bar under my door and every time I walk under it, I'm just going to do 1 pull-up. It's not that fatiguing. I'm not training close to failure. I'm always leaving a rep in reserve. So it's 50% of my capacity and I'm getting lots of practice of the movement. So rather than doing, you know, 3 sets to failure, over the course of a day, I might accumulate 10 or 12 sets. And there are many ways you could do it. I could just do 1 pull-up every time I walk under the bar. I could do 1 negative every time I walk under the bar. I could do 5 band pull-ups, you know, when I could have done 10. So I'm very, very far from failure. And what this does, you practice the movement a lot. You get really good at recruiting those muscles. You get a lot of neurological benefits, but you don't get much fatigue because you're not pushing close to failure. So
you're not doing a full workout.
Exactly, yes. Awesome for building strength quickly, awesome for beginners, awesome for unfamiliar skills.
Yeah.
The time I think it could be overrated is when you're very advanced. And the reason for that is you don't have many more neurological neurological gains to make.
Yeah.
So if you're really familiar with a movement, let's use the example of a push-up. A push-up is not very technical. And if I've been doing it for 10 years, I probably have a pretty good push-up. In that case, I'm probably not going to make many neurological gains by doing, sets of 50% of my capacity of push-ups, sets of, 25 push-ups or something. Yeah. In that case, I probably need to push a lot more to failure. My neurological capacity is probably near its limit. I'm really good at recruiting the muscles. At that point, I need to train harder. I need to build more muscle mass. I need to make structural changes to improve. So
what if you would do weighted?
I still think the same thing. I think you need to push things a little bit closer to failure. So in that case, I would train the way that most street lifters, most powerlifters train. They're doing some very heavy sets. They're not doing 50% of their capacity. Like, let's say you can squat 150 kilos, you're not doing 1 rep with 75 kilos. You'd be squatting a lot heavier. You don't need to train to failure, but you need the intensity to be pretty high. And then usually some back off sets closer to failure to stimulate some structural changes, some hypertrophy.
Yeah. Hybrid training.
Hybrid training.
Hybrid training.
I think hybrid training for health reasons is underrated. There are many ways to do hybrid training. You could try to do some cardio sport and weights, or you could try and do weights and calisthenics, powerlifting calisthenics, breakdancing calisthenics, plenty of ways to do hybrid training. For general health, I think it is awesome. If you enjoy doing lots of styles of training, go for it. It's great. Very fun, can keep you motivated, keep you training. The time I think it is overrated is when you want to specialize, when you want to excel at something. Yeah. So if you want to be one of the best at calisthenics, you're probably not going to achieve that while you're trying to run triathlons and be a powerlifter. Exactly. Every time you're training something else, it's an opportunity cost for the thing you're trying to excel at. So if you just want general health, I think it's great. You kind of be a jack of all trades, master of none. But if you want to be a master at something, I think you need to specialize and spend more time on it.
So it depends on the goal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We have 3 more. BCAAs.
BCAAs, branched chain amino acids.
Yes.
I think they're overrated.
Yeah.
The research says, as long as you're eating enough protein, adding in BCAAs is not going to provide a benefit. So if you're eating enough protein, it's not going to be helpful. If you're not eating enough protein, it might be helpful, but that's because you're eating more protein. Exactly. Where you could just eat more protein some other way, like more protein-rich foods or whey protein.
Whey protein, instead of focusing on the
BCAAs, yeah. So if you think they're tasty or something, cool, go for it, yeah. I think a lot of people waste money on them. So I think they're overrated, but they're not, entirely useless, just useless most of the time.
They're not harmful.
Yeah.
Okay, handstand.
Handstands. Handstands are awesome.
Awesome.
Awesome. I think handstands are underrated. I think they're...
I agree.
Yeah, they're cool. So handstands are great for beginners. It's a really cool skill to unlock, and it's achievable for most people. Most people who train their handstands seriously will be able to balance it in under a year. Another thing that's awesome about handstands is you can just train them the rest of your life and make progress. It's kind of like something you will never truly master. You know,
unlimited opportunities.
Yeah, you look at high-level hand balances. They're training multiple hours every day. You don't need equipment, you just need the floor. They're great. For calisthenics, they are a foundation in so many skills. You want to be able to do handstand push-ups, you need the handstand. 90-degree push-ups, you need the handstand. Planche transitions, they're awesome. Handstands are cool.
Underrated for sure.
Super underrated.
Super. Okay, last one. Gymnastic rings.
Gymnastic rings?
Yes.
Underrated. They're awesome. Firstly, you just need somewhere to hang them. If you have somewhere to hang them, they're a real minimalist piece of equipment. You don't need a pull-up bar, dip bars, parallettes. If you have gymnastics rings, you can do all the exercises you can do on all of those, anywhere that you can hang them. So you can do dips, you can do chin-ups, you can do rows, you can adjust the difficulty of rows by raising and lowering the rings. Push-ups, front levers, back levers, planche, the options are endless. Yeah. The one problem with rings, which I don't think is really a problem, is that for beginners trying to learn dips, it's really hard. Yeah, they make exercises harder.
A lot, yeah.
It's the calisthenics equivalent of dumbbells versus a barbell, or dumbbells versus a Smith machine. If I can bench press 100 kilos, I probably can't do 50 kilograms in each hand because it's much harder to stabilize. I can't push outwards and use that force to help lift the bar. And rings are the same. You try and do, if you get a beginner to hold a support position on dip bars, no problem. You get a beginner to hold this on rings and they're shaking all over the place, often can't do it. Awesome piece of equipment, makes things more challenging, which can be a feature or a bug depending on your level. But they are underrated. They're the best. They're so good. One thing, another little bit of knowledge that I think is really useful that I just discovered this week. After training calisthenics for 20 years, I forgot to bring a dip belt with me. So I'm I'm traveling in Europe right now and I normally have a dip belt at home, but I forgot to bring one with me, and I was saying, damn, how can I do weighted dips, weighted chin-ups? I often put a dumbbell behind my knee, but I wanted to go a little bit heavier. Just use the ring strap. Just tie it around, tie a knot, and there's your dip belt.
Not as comfortable, but it works.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not perfect, but it's practical. Yeah. Rings are awesome.
All right, that was the last one. Thank you so much, Simon, for coming here and sharing your opinion with us. It was really interesting.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. We'll do it again sometime.
For sure.